Hi, welcome to another video podcast. I'm going to be showing you the very powerful grid tool in a moment, and I'm going to use it to draw a bar chart, something which I can imagine cropping up in an awful lot of situations. However, it's not exclusively for the use of drawing bar charts, and I'm sure with your imaginations you'll see lots of other uses for the grid. The way I'm going to access this is I'm going to make sure I'm on the select tool, the arrow tool, and then right click. If you're using your interactive whiteboard to do this rather than sat at a computer, then to remember that what you do is you just put the pen close to but not touching the surface of the board, and the button on the side of the pen is your right click button. And we're going to be using the grid designer tool here. It's a relatively fearsome looking place, and I've spent a bit of time investigating it, and I'll tell you what I know about it. One of the nice things is that changes do appear live on the screen behind. So the first thing we're going to do is click visible, and you can see that's covered the screen in covered our flip chart in squares. And I'm also going to click on the snap to, and perhaps at that point I should just quickly demonstrate. Works best in conjunction with the shape tool. It doesn't have any effect on the standard pen tool. So if now I attempt to draw a rectangle, you can see it only jumps to the grid positions, which is handy if you need to draw a set of shapes that are closely related to each other. So for example, here I've got a set of rectangles, all of different lengths but all of the same width, and obviously we could have had the grid not visible if we wanted a subtler effect, but as I said, we're heading towards a bar chart here. Just use our little spray can, and those are all objects, so I can just click clear objects. Going to go back onto the select tool and go back into the grid designer. These numbers up here are to do with zooming, and I'm going to recommend that you don't use those, because when I've tried it in the past, when you come back to your flip chart in the future, it seems to have reverted to the default value, meaning that you can't return to your grid as you wanted it to be, and you're much better off using these numbers down here. Because I'm going to be designing a bar chart here, it makes sense to me to actually change these to numbers which are divisible by 10. So that's a kind of, you just have to, when you click in there, you just have to press return, and then you'll see the changes appear on the screen. Now obviously those squares are quite big, but this is going to be the base of my grid, and we're going to have like on a graph paper, some darker lines and some lighter lines, and I'm just going to put those in blue. Okay, now if you see here, we've got a little dialog box relating to the level, so we can add a level, and the new level is defaulted to 32 by 32, which has created this rather interesting pattern that you can see behind us. Might as well just run through a couple of the other things here. They all in general are going to look fairly awful here, but the grid can be set at 45 degrees, or you can choose the angle. That'd be quite good for doing isometric drawing if that's your bag, and also with similar disastrous consequences, you can have dashed lines, crosses, dots and all that sort of thing, but clearly we only want solid lines at the moment. You can also decide to have only X lines or only Y lines, and obviously we're only affecting the one level here, so I can actually imagine situations where that one would be useful. So bearing in mind that the blue lines are spaced at 100, if I put 20 in here, then we should get a nice 5:1 ratio. The problem being, of course, that the level 2 is obscuring the level 1. This is the if we bring the level 1 to the front, now you've got the blue squares with the smaller black squares inside, and that's looking kind of roughly like a piece of student graph paper. I've not set it up with the graph, like the graph paper we'd have in physics with 10 squares within, I just think there's a real risk of kind of visual confusion, and certainly for me when I was using very small squares I was getting a lot of visual disturbance, and I would imagine looking at it on a board from a distance would only make that even worse. I'm just going to click the on top one. That will let you see the grid through. It's purely a matter of aesthetics that, as to which one you're going to use. So I'm going to go back into the shapes tools, and to draw the axes I'm going to use this diagonal line tool. We don't need the vertical or horizontal because the snap to grid function will make that unnecessary. I'm going to draw in black, and I'm going to use actually I'm going to use a slightly fatter line than that just to keep the get the grid going. If you want to, you can just draw little 1 square length lines just to indicate where your bars are going to go. Just make it a bit easier again to help line things up. And then obviously this is all going to need labelling. I'm not going to label the whole thing now because that would take quite a long time. Obviously the easiest way to do that is just to use the pen tool, and it will be neater when you're working on the board. I'm working with a mouse. I'm just going to change to authoring, and then I can have the text tool, which will allow me to probably give a neater result, but at the same time it's a little bit slower, perhaps something that you would do if you were setting this up in advance. I'm imagining more that if you were doing bar charts it would be something that this would be an educational thing where you're working with your group, you're discussing this as you go along, and you're building it up with them so that either they're interacting with the data or they're learning how to draw a bar chart. If I was to want to simply insert a bar chart into my flip chart, I'd probably create that elsewhere, such as in Excel, and simply import it as an image. Alright, so that's the labelling done, and now for very simply the way to put in the bars, I would use the rectangle tool. Remember this up here gives you the inside colour of the rectangle, and this gives you the outside outline, and it's just now a matter of allowing the grid to force you to make your bars line up so you get a really reasonably neat looking product. And obviously we could be setting different colours as we go along here. You know, there's no limit to how many colours that we can have. That's a fairly disgusting one, isn't it? But that doesn't matter. It's just a matter of illustrating the process. So there you go. You and your students can now rapidly construct bar charts and have some ideas about how you might use the grid tool. Thank you very much.